Russia's political system is often called a democracy, but in practice, it's really a highly centralized dictatorship around one man. Today, in episode 3 of Geopolitics 102, we're breaking down Russia's political system for people who do not know how it works, how Russia is actually governed, the constitution, and the power structure, and why all that matters for us in the wider and especially Western world. Let's get into it. So Russia is a semi presidential republic. Now, what does that mean in practice? There was a constitution made in 1993 and was heavily amended in 2020, which gives the president enormous power, practically dictatorial power, especially after 2022. When it comes to being a commander in chief, when it comes to foreign policy, when it comes to key appointments, when it comes to electing people his in his government, and the ability to dissolve parliament, or in this case, the state Duma or the Federation Council, whenever he really chooses. And the reason why I'm not saying he or she in this instance, because we all know we're talking about Putin right now. So here's the deal. The president is supposed to serve 6-year terms. But thanks to a 2022 change, President Putin can now run as many times as he wishes. So there's a little bit of wiggle room in there. So the president serves for 6-year terms and can now run for 2 or more terms without a limit after 2020. Vladimir Putin has been the dominant figure since 2000, since he started running for office after his job and career as a KGB spy in East Germany. Now let's talk about how the parliament and the political structure actually works. We have the president up top, and we're going to get into how really he dominates politics. And then we have the prime minister under him, which is, if we're going to relate this to American politics, this is kind of be the VP, the vice president. Or for a historical president, let's talk about J.D. Vance. He's the current vice president of the United States. Now we have the state Duma of Russian politics, which is kind of like the American Senate. There's I want to say, capped number of state Duma representatives at 450 seats. They kind of enact laws when it comes to policy, when it comes to economics, when it comes to the day-to-day things that would actually help Russian civilians. So it's kind of like our Senate. They pass laws, they handle the economics. I'm not going to say the state Duma handles all the economics, but they play a part where they can. And then the Federation Council is kind of like our House of Representatives. They also handle more local laws when it comes to, for an American example, when it comes to the military contractors in Louisiana and Alabama, how Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Martin have military centers down there. The state representatives of those states would be highly incentivized to increase military funding, because the Federation Council, and to keep up with this analogy, the Federation Council is a more localized representation of districts or states or sectors of the Russian geography or inside political state. Let's go a little bit further. So we've talked about the president. It's Putin. He holds a lot of the power of the Russian government, and here's really why. So this democracy has elections, but how do I want to say this? The United Russia, or the pro-Putin party, obviously has been in power since 2000, and it has dominated by restricting opposition parties, imprisoning members of opposition parties, disappearing leading members of opposition parties, and imprisoning opposition parties, exiling opposition party members. You get what I'm trying to say. Like, there's elections, but there's not really elections. It's kind of like you're allowed to be on the ballot, but as soon as you come even close, you're kind of done away with in Russian politics, right? So they've been in power since the early 2000s, and they dominated ever since. They hold a strong majority. The system is often described as a managed democracy or a super presidential system. As I said, the key opposition figures have been sidelined, exiled, or imprisoned, or just disappeared. And then in 2020, a couple of years before the Ukrainian crisis, constitutional changes extended Putin's potential rule until 2036. Let's put it like this. At the beginning of Putin's rule, he was only supposed to serve 6 years. He has met more popes than there have been Russian presidents. Just put that in perspective. And the Pope's supposed to serve for life. So there's a president, there's a VP or prime minister. There's a Senate, there's the State Duma, there's the House of Representatives, there's the Federation Council. But unlike in American politics, whether it's blue 1 year or red 1 year, when it comes to American politics, the president isn't the emperor of the United States. No matter what the media is going to tell you, whichever president is in charge, red or blue, we don't have a king or a dictator as a president. That's a bunch of malarkey. Russia does. They have a managed democracy where you can vote for whoever you want, but there's really only one vote on the ballot. There's another country that has something similar to that. It's what's it called? Oh yeah, North Korea, or what was the other one? Oh yeah, China. You can vote for whoever you want, but we're going to make sure you vote for the person we want you to vote for. That's how Russia gets down with it. That's how they get jiggy with it. Look, the Russian political system is built for stability, just like the Empire from Star Wars was built for stability. And centralized control, it has delivered continuity, as in nothing's changed for over 2 decades. Why? Because they made sure nothing would change once they got into power. Obviously, there are Western critiques or living critiques that says the system lacks real competition or accountability, but that's never going to change as long as Putin's in power and alive. If you like this content, my name is Brady Ellis. I run Geopolitics 102. We do deep breakdowns on macroeconomics and macro geopolitical happenings in society and in the world. We also do series like this where we do a deep dive into the countries and get just the basics down for every country we're going to talk about. So next time you have Thanksgiving, next time you have a test, you know the basics. I'm not going to say you should skip class for the first month, but you kind of know first month of university because you already know everything. I'm not going to say that, but you already have a baseline background. And we did it all in 7 minutes.